I rise on behalf of the opposition on the Crimes Amendment Intimate Image and Audio Material Bill 2025, and we are happy to support this bill. We welcome its introduction to the House, and we recognise that it is a good start to deal with this important issue. But it is only a start, and there is more work which needs to be done. We also recognise that this bill builds on a foundation laid by the Coalition and follows the introduction of our own legislation. We don't understand why this government finds it so hard to work collegially on important and frankly bipartisan issues. But just as we did with the bill to better protect our war memorials, we will strive for collegiality in this. The subject matter is simply too important for pettiness, so we are happy to support this bill. The bill aims to tackle the rapidly growing and deeply concerning issue of the rise of sexually explicit deepfakes. They cause severe harm to many individuals, particularly women, adolescents, and even children. Advances in artificial intelligence have made it alarmingly easy to create realistically fake images, video, audio, and text that depict people without their consent in sexually explicit situations. This is far more than just a digital nuisance. It is a profound violation of privacy, dignity, and safety. It is electronic exploitation and an unwelcome commodification and reduction of the human person. The government's bill broadly mirrors the opposition's legislation introduced in the other place and largely repeats its definitions, its penalties, and the way in which it seeks to amend the law. However, what it does not do to the same extent is include the use of deepfake text. This remains to be addressed. Sexually explicit deepfakes are used as tools of harassment, intimidation, and exploitation. The victims in this circumstance, overwhelmingly women, suffer not only emotional trauma and reputational damage, but also ongoing psychological and social harm. The spread of such material in schools, workplaces, and communities contributes to a culture which normalises gendered abuse and leaves victims feeling powerless. This bill amends the Crimes Act to expand existing offences related to the non-consensual recording and distribution of intimate images to include digitally created or altered material, particularly deepfake images and audio. I acknowledge that the legislation on which we are now building, the intimate image legislation, is legislation first introduced in this Parliament under the leadership of the now opposition leader and then Attorney General, the Honourable Mark Speakman. That legislation addressed what was then a contemporary issue, broadly termed revenge porn, the misuse of existing and real images that may have been taken with consent at the time or may have been taken without consent. Today, in 2025, the contemporary challenges we face are not so much the realistic images, but the altered or created images, the altered or created audio, the altered or created video, and the altered or created text. Schedule 1(2) to the bill extends the existing definition to cover images generated by AI or other digital means. This definition ensures protection for realistic fake images that are designed to resemble a real person, a simulated person. Additionally, Schedule 1(13) introduces a new offence under Section 91PA, criminalising the creation or alteration of an intimate image or audio material involving a simulated person without consent. This addresses a significant gap in the existing law, which only criminalises distribution or recording of real images. Schedule 1(2) extends offences to cover sexually explicit audio material through the insertion of the terminology intimate audio material into Section 91N, reflecting the same protections that apply to images. Schedule 1, 21 to 23 further strengthen enforcement powers under Section 91S by expanding rectification orders, which allow courts to require offenders to remove, delete, or retract harmful materials. Perhaps this is one of the more important provisions in this bill, because it is one thing for it to be an offence to produce that material, but very importantly for the victims of this, we need takedown powers. And these takedown powers, these rectification powers, are essential tools for victim protection in this expanding digital age. Moreover, Schedule 1, 24 to 27 amends Section 91T to clarify exceptions to these offences, ensuring legitimate uses such as medical, legal or law enforcement purposes are protected. And Schedule 2 contains, of course, consequential amendments to other laws. This is a good bill, but as I flagged earlier, it notably fails to include provisions addressing sexually explicit deepfake text, such as fabricated messages or communications generated by AI. This is a significant gap, given that AI-generated text can cause harm and can be used to coerce and intimidate. Without explicitly addressing this medium, the law does not fully capture the scope of digital abuse, which is emerging with generative AI. And this is why we moved amendments in the other place to broaden the scope of these bill. Those amendments included a prohibition on deepfake text material to ensure victims have comprehensive protection against all forms of digitally fabricated sexual abuse. We're all aware that the technology of generative text fakes is very common. It uses AI applications to allow computers to generate text content on almost any subject, and it is incredibly close to actual human writing. Excluding text ignores not only the existing use of the application of this technology, but also the associated risks of the application of this technology. The CSIRO broadly defines deepfakes as synthetic media generated using artificial intelligence, including images, videos, audio, and even text. And this is exactly why we believe this bill should be extended to text, and why we moved amendments to give effect to the inclusion of text as a form of deepfake material prohibited alongside audio and images. And we remain disappointed that the government did not support these important amendments. And good as this bill is, this remains a continuing gap in protection for women, a gap that will only broaden with time and technological change. Automated generative technology created by machine learning models is used to create text for fake news and to copy the writing styles and speech of authors, songwriters and celebrities to either mimic them, misrepresent them, or even monetize the imitation of their works. We need to look at the way existing AI technology utilises text in combination with the range of changes in behaviour around sexual interactions being seen across society, particularly in the digital space. Sexting chat rooms as a space for individuals to engage in sexually explicit text. Image or video exchanges are on the rise. OpenAI and other leading AI tools have moved to explore how to, as they say, responsibly, I think that's a question for us to explore, allow users to make AI-generated porn and other explicit content, including text. There is also an increase in the use of AI chatbot companions, the impact of an increase in catfishing on online dating and other apps, and the prolific use of deepfakes in bullying and intimidation, including in circumstances of intimate partner violence and revenge porn. Technological capability using machine learning models to create text, when applied to changes in sexual interaction and discourse and people's attitudes to the way technology in the digital realm is used to engage in sexualised conversation, is not a challenge of the future. It is a challenge of today. It is clear that the application of deepfake text technology to sexually explicit behaviours cannot be ignored. The law must prohibit the creation or use of sexually explicit deepfake text to ensure that we also send the message that this is criminal behaviour and it will be backed up by the same penalties as image or audio. It is deeply disappointing that the government have not taken this opportunity to do exactly that. Members know that we exist in a world where people can apply technology to our names, our faces and our voices in a way that can create significant risks to all of us. I hesitate to suggest that we are real celebrities, but we do have public profiles. Our reputations and our credibility within our communities are important when we are showcasing our work on behalf of the community. If sexually explicit images or video of us were created using deepfake technology, we would expect, as other members of the community would, to be protected. If an audio recording were created using a deepfake version of our voice, we should expect that to be treated as a breach of the law. So if an image of a member is used with sexually explicit text written underneath in their tone and language, by inference suggesting to the community that those are their words because they were attached to their image, they should also expect that to be treated as a breach of the law. And we ask the government to consider this because this is an important lacuna in the bill as it has been presented. However, we recognise all that is good in this bill, we support this bill, and we remain committed to strengthening the law to fully reflect the evolving technological landscape. We owe this to the victims, particularly women and girls, to provide clear and strong protections and to hold perpetrators to account for the digital violations they commit. I commend this bill to the House.